Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at pitching on tonight's slate, and we're just running through really just within the last 5 minutes. And, I didn't notice it at first, but there are 10 pitchers under 5K on DraftKings.
I am grumpy, and I wish I could blame it on like this slate, but it's not. I'm just a jerk right now. Just like if it would be one of those mornings where you're driving and you could let someone go, but you just keep going and you give them an angry look as you drive by. You know what I'm saying? You ever had those mornings? Yeah.
I know what you're saying. And even on FanDuel, Josh Donaldson, he's more expensive than 3 pitchers.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
It's a wild night of pitching. There are top options, but there's a lot to kind of just sift through.
I think it's going to be pretty solidified where people go here, but beyond that, whatever. You just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, I think so too. Marlins and Phillies, first one here, Vincent Velasquez versus Jose Urena. Velasquez definitely kind of an intriguing arm on tonight's slate just because he's priced a little bit cheaper than some of those top options. I really like his pricing on FanDuel where he's 8,600. Decent strikeout rates. Facing the Marlins team, it's obviously not the most ideal matchup, but I'm definitely not worried just because Velasquez does have that strikeout upside.
Yeah, I think that's fair in a tournament. I'm probably not going to have too much exposure to him, though. I like some of those Marlins prices, especially Ozuna. So I'm probably going to be avoiding him and paying up, at least in cash. But for tournaments, yeah, I do think he does have decent strikeout upside.
Yeah, and Urena on the other side, not really a guy I'm looking at. I know he's cheap. I know he's going up against the Phillies, but I really don't see anything really there to kind of deploy him.
And he's got a sweet name, but yeah, that's not really a reason to start someone, I guess, huh?
Maybe for you, but not for me. Pirates and Brewers here, Junior Guerrero versus Jameson Taillon, and obviously, I think Taillon could be in play just because of that Brewers strikeout rate. And obviously, you look at them against right-handed pitching, and they are middle of the road. And just because they have that 26% strikeout rate, I could actually see kind of using him in GPPs. And he is a decent favorite at -143 there in a pretty friendly park.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's pretty intriguing in terms of strikeout upside. As we've seen, he's kind of been up and down in terms of giving up runs. But I think against this Brewers team, we've seen it not just once or twice, a few times where pitchers really maximize their strikeout upside against this team. So I do like that quite a bit. Obviously, you're worried about the Villars and front of the lineup there a little bit, but if he can neutralize Braun and Carter, I think he's in a really good spot.
Yeah, definitely. He's come off the DL. It's always one thing. I don't think he's going to go anything more than 6 innings. And you look, his last start, which was in June, but at Seattle, 24 DK points. Had a solid outing against a really quality team. So you just look at this Brewers team, it just seems like they're either on or they're completely off. And we've seen them give up kind of big strikeout upside games to a lot of pitchers this year.
Right, and like you mentioned, they can be on, but I'd say more often than not, it's a high strikeout upside day for the opposing pitcher there.
Yeah, definitely. And Junior Guerrero on the other side, I've come around on him, but still not a guy who I'm really looking to use on the slate. His price tag is way too high for me to kind of even consider some of those other names.
Excessive is how I would describe it. I don't think we need to go that direction. I think there are even some top end guys that are in that range that I think you can go to for a few hundred more.
Yeah, definitely agree. And Dodgers Nationals, next one here, Scott Kazmir versus Reynaldo Lopez. And Lopez, obviously a touted prospect. I'm not necessarily looking to use him. I know this Dodgers team hasn't really been great against right-handed pitching, but they are coming around. Strikeout rate's pretty average, and Kazmir's not even a guy who I'm looking to use. This Nationals team's pretty good against right-handers, and Kazmir just really, his stuff just doesn't look like it's anything that I want to deploy even in GPPs.
Yeah, unfortunately. I ended my experiment with Kazmir after a few starts ago where I ran into the fire with him. I just don't think he's – it's not that he's not right. I just don't think his stuff is necessarily That
That's good.
effective. Yeah, it's not. I just don't think it's that effective anymore. So, um, it's just not a great matchup. I think this is just a clear avoid here.
Yeah, I think so too. And you just kind of look. I mean, Lopez. I mean, in the minors. I mean, low 3 ERA, really solid strikeout rate. I mean, 109 over 87 innings pitched. He's a guy who, I mean, we've taken some risk on some guys making their first starts, this year. It seems like this year more so than any other years in the past. But I think I'm just kind of off the wagon on doing that there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So next game here, you got the Orioles and the Yankees, and this game was last night was not what we expected out of those two arms. And tonight, I'm back and just saying that this is going to be a hitter's game.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I kind of got burned yesterday by the Orioles a little bit, but I'm definitely willing to go back to that. All right, between Vance Worley and Jose Urena, who has the better name? It's a tough decision. It's a tough decision of
I'm gonna go Jose.
Okay, I think I'm with you, but
No, I like Worley, but Vance really throws me off. I'm not a big fan of Vance.
Okay, yeah. So the Worley, gotcha. Anyway, obviously these two arms aren't very strong. I'm leaning towards using the Orioles here, but I can totally understand going with sort of the high risk, high reward of this Yankees lineup.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And you just look at Eovaldi. I mean, not good. I mean, hasn't been good at home. It's given up 19 homers this season.
Yeah,
It's just kind of an easy stay away situation against this Orioles team that, second in the league in WOBA. And even if they don't have Chris Davis, even if they don't have leaders in the lineup tonight, it's still, you still got a couple bats to worry about. And even their secondary pieces aren't that bad.
right, exactly. So I think that's just an easy avoid here. Don't need to overthink it and start targeting pitchers in that game. That'd be you might be in a bad place in life if you're thinking about doing that.
Next game here, Twins in Detroit, and this one was very similar. I mean, expecting a big total out of that one from last night didn't happen. Tonight, though, you got Tommy Malone, a bad left-hander against Anibal Sanchez, who's just been rocked continuously this season. I can't even see using Sanchez against the Twins. I mean, he might limit some damage, but there's no way he's even serviceable.
Again, that's a tough one to talk yourself into. I don't think I'm going to be having any Anibal Sanchez shares Tommy Malone. That's just a tough ballpark to really find effective pitching unless it's really like a Verlander and a good matchup or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, during the summertime, Co-America is a little bit better, and I'm with you. I mean, it's just last night seemed like kind of somewhat of a fluke. I'm just staying away from this game. I mean, both teams are projected for over 4.5 runs, so it's, I'm definitely staying away.
Right.
Braves and Reds here, and Cody Reavers, Tyrell Jenkins, and Cody Reed. I mean, obviously lefties against the Braves are going to draw some intriguing, eyes to the table here. And you look at Reed, I mean, does have a 24% strikeout rate, does miss some bats. But does allow a ton of hard ball contact, does allow some home runs. There is much higher risk than I think there was with Finnegan last night against this Braves team. But I am intrigued just because there is strikeout upside there. I hate the price tag, though, on DraftKings. I really do, 8,100.
It's bad. It'd be better if it was like 4,500, I think. But I do think there's some upside here. I don't think it's going to be a perfect start by any means. He is going to get roughed up at some point along the way. But at the same time, Braves obviously struggle against lefties. There is some strikeout upside there. And in terms of being different, I think this is a pretty solid swerve. Tournament only, clearly. And I think you got to limit your exposure. But at the same time, I'm okay with a tournament lineup or two with Cody Reed in it.
Yeah, and he's only 6K on FanDuel. I mean, obviously, it really is high risk, high reward. It's allowing you on FanDuel to give you a ton of bats in there. And even as an SP2 on DraftKings, it's still really high risk. And you look at Reed, I mean, he's drawn some really tough matchups. And, his Houston game was his best start. Then he faced the Padres, the Cubs twice in Miami. I mean, those are all top lefty hitting teams. I mean, it's kind of a tough draw. Now he's going to get off, the Braves are dead last night, so they're dead last in WOBA. Pretty decent strikeout rate against left-handers. So, I do think he could turn in a quality start, but also I'm just going to put that out there that floor is, I'm talking
Yeah.
6 earned over 3 innings, that there is a shelling factor that could happen.
And we've seen this Braves team be feisty in terms of picking guys apart, especially weaker arms. So I'm okay with that. And you mentioned the ISO for the Braves is comical. It's like 30 points less than 29th or something stupid like that. So yeah, it's really bad. But obviously Reed, still high risk guy.
Yeah, definitely. And Giants and Red Sox here, and Rick Porcello versus Jake Peavy. And yeah, this is a game where I'm not really a big fan of either. Obviously not Peavy. You're looking at the Red Sox as one of the top stacks of the night. And Porcello even. I mean, I'm just not a big fan of targeting this Giants offense that right around 10th as far as WOBA against righties. They just don't strike out. They don't really give a lot of guys upside.
And Porcello hasn't struck out a lot of people either this year. It's just kind of like a match made in mediocrity. Do I see like 15? Yeah, probably 15. I mean, it's not horrible. He does have a good chance at a win, but I don't know. Him and Reed are pretty much on the same sort of realm for me, at least on DK.
Yeah, I mean, given the price tags, I think Reed has the higher upside. I think Porcello is a little bit safer, but even Porcello at that price tag, I want safe. I do want upside for that type of price.
That's a good call, yeah.
So, Mets and Cubs here, and finally we start to dive into some upper tier arms. It took a while, but Noah Syndergaard versus Jake Arrieta. I think Arrieta, I mean, struggled a little bit there before the break. I think the break is going to be good for him. Didn't pitch well against the Mets. Didn't pitch well against Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. I think he bounces back, much like we saw Lester bounce back last night with the home win against the Mets.
I'm a little gun shy with him right now. I obviously know it's Jake Arrieta, but at the same time, this is 3 straight just lineup crushing starts for him.
I mean, but that was the same thing for Lester. I mean. Yeah. He was kind of exactly the same way. I mean, 10 earned against the Mets? I mean,
I know. Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. So, I mean, obviously you still trust Arrieta. I don't think you're necessarily worried about him, but there is a little caution, I think, in terms of the recent outings he's had. But against this Mets team, I think that's a great team to potentially turn it around against. So I do like him. Obviously they are favorites in Wrigley, so I do like him. Just using a little caution. And Syndergaard on the other side, I don't know that. I mean, I like him based on the slate, but at the same time, tough lineup, tough matchup. I'm worried about Rizzo there.
I like Syndergaard quite a bit. I wish there was a little more of a price difference from him and Arrieta to kind of be different. I think you still can. I do like the upside. You look at this Cubs team. I mean, yes, they are a top 10 WOBA team against righties, but they do have a 23% strikeout rate, and that started to kind of show over the last couple of weeks. And we saw Syndergaard, I mean, tossed a really nice outing against the Cubs just before the break. The only thing is, I mean, both these guys, I think there is a little bit of a win concern on FanDuel. If they don't get those 12 points, it's kind of a tough draw there.
Yeah, I guess that's my concern with Syndergaard, and more so on FanDuel than anything else, but it's going to be tough for him to get a win against that offense and against Arrieta. So I'm not fading him by any means, but probably more of a tournament guy than cash for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Padres and Cardinals, next one here, Carlos Martinez versus Colin Rea, and Martinez a heavy favorite, -205. Going to square off against the Padres team that just struck out 11 times against Mike Leake, and I guess I guess I got to give Mike Leake a little bit of an apology. I did not think he was going to do what he did against the Brewers. I was like, double-digit strikeouts, give me a freaking break. And there he goes. Yeah. But he did, he did give up a homer to Matt Kemp, so whatever.
Hey, yeah, and you were on Kemp, so it all averages out, and it doesn't matter, and we're moving on. I love this spot for Martinez, and this is kind of the guy I would want to swerve off of Syndergaard too. You just feel comfortable with those Vegas odds and against this Padres team, who obviously has weak splits against righties. I just like this matchup in general, and I feel pretty comfortable with him being my SP2 on DK. And I mean, I think you can throw tournament lineups out there on FanDuel with him as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, Martinez gives you a little bit of leeway for hitters, and I'm with you. I think Martinez is an intriguing option, and Martinez might be a guy who, in GPPs on DraftKings, I might start off with as an SP1 and see what I can work with as an SP2 to kind of get some bets in. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at this Padres team. I mean, 29th in WOBA against righties, 24.5% strikeout rate. We see Martinez start to kind of dial it up in the K department of late. I mean, he's coming off an 11 strikeout performance against Milwaukee. And overall, he's been very solid. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, back to really since May that he's had a bad start. So he's definitely tuned in right now and pitching well.
His name is no Jose Uranus, though.
It's not. It's just a regular Carlos. Indians and Royals next one here. Danny Salazar versus Brian Flynn. And Salazar, obviously intriguing option and one of the top names on the slate. Has pitched really well against the Royals this season. 18 strikeouts over 2 starts. A little bit of a concern for me. I mean, he's got the elbow issue that's starting to kind of flare up. Says everything's good to go, but you know, I think always with an elbow, you're kind of taking a little bit of a caution.
Yeah, I just think it's so easy to go to Martinez here, you know, and I do like Salazar, but I wasn't even totally aware of that injury, so that is a little bit of a caution. I think he still is in tournament play, and I think it is a good matchup, but at the same time, I just don't think you necessarily need to go that direction. But I mean, depending on who the other sort of who people recommend, if Salazar becomes a really low end option because of that injury, or like a low owned option, I think that might be a nice swerve in a tournament. But at the same time, I just go Martinez in that range.
Yeah, and on FanDuel, I mean, it's Jake Arrieta, Danny Salazar, Noah Syndergaard. I mean, does Salazar come in third, or are you still putting Salazar ahead of Syndergaard?
He's ahead of Syndergaard for me, slightly. I mean, they're pretty much equal, but yeah, slightly ahead of Syndergaard.
As far as Brian Flynn on the other side, I mean, not really looking to attack this Indians team. I know they're not, really tremendous against lefties, but they still are middle of the road, and I do think you can kind of use them and deploy some of those right-handed bats against them.
Yeah, the big old Mike Napoli.
Mike Napoli, you got that Rajah Davis, that Rajah.
Yeah.
Rays and Rockies here. Tyler Chatwood versus Blake Snell, and we looked at last night. Yeah, I know it wasn't a great outing by any means for the offenses, but
it wasn't.
Pitching, I mean, obviously it still didn't pan out, and it's not going to pan out here tonight either.
Yeah, it was just kind of a bummer all around. I wanted it to be Logan Forsythe Day, and it wasn't, but that's okay. I think we're going back to these Rays again tonight, so I'm not touching Chatwood or Snell.
Yeah, I'm definitely not either. Moving on to the next game here, you got the Blue Jays and Diamondbacks. Zach Godley versus Aaron Sanchez. Mm-hmm. I do like Aaron Sanchez into the terms of not picking on him. I can't really see myself using him at 10K. He's a little too expensive for me in 8,900 on FanDuel. I'm not in love with the ballpark. I'm not in love with the matchup. I do think there is some strikeout upside just because Arizona does strike out quite a bit against righties. So obviously it would be a deep tournament play, but obviously just in Chase Field, I think the floor is a little bit lower.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. When I first looked over this slate, my eyes kind of lighted up. Ooh, Aaron Sanchez. Not a perfect matchup for him. So I guess what you're debating to yourself is the Cody Reed, Rick Porcello tier. Like, is he worth that almost $2,000 pay up over them? And I think it's about even in terms of value, but just that in itself kind of makes you just not want to do it in general. If you're weighing that option, you probably don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think so too. The pay up is a little bit tougher for me to stomach, and especially, I mean, obviously, giving Carlos Martinez is right there if he's not already in your picture.
Yeah.
Vince Velasquez, too, who I still think I prefer a little bit more over him.
Right. Yeah. I'd say that's a fair call as well.
Yeah. And Blue Jays against Godley here. I mean, that's
Eh.
yeah, in Chase Field, so
Yeah.
Godley's an easy stay away.
Being at home isn't necessarily a good thing in baseball, that's for sure.
No, sometimes it's not. I mean, Chase Field has been a freaking offensive
Yeah.
park for most of the season.
Oh.
Next game here, you got the Rangers and Angels. Tim Lincecum versus Kyle Loesch, and I don't say this often, but this could be an offensive showing out in LA.
Oh boy.
I mean, these are two bad arms right now.
Yeah, you don't see 9.5 over unders in the Angels home field there. So yeah, I'm not necessarily targeting Tim Lincecum here unless he like goes in a time machine from 5 years ago. Then I'd love him. But
he's not. He's mediocre Tim Lincecum.
Actually, you know what? More like 7 years ago, probably at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, when was his Cy Young season? It was around,
I don't know.
2011, 2012, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
It's been a while. But with that being said,
the fact that we can't remember like when his good season was means it was a few years ago. So you're not touching either of these guys. Don't even do that to yourself, I guess.
No, definitely not. Looking at the Astros and A's here, Dallas Keuchel versus Dylan Overton, and Keuchel's a guy who's kind of turned things around.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been relatively consistent of late. I don't mind him at the price. I think 8,200 is a reasonable price tag for him. I do think he kind of gets a win here. FanDuel, I'm not completely in love with it. 8,500, I'd rather just kind of go up to Carlos Martinez. I'd rather go to a Vince Velasquez. I think there's a little bit more strikeout upside in GPPs.
Yeah.
So Keuchel not really in play for me on FanDuel, but DraftKings he certainly is.
And again, the strikeouts aren't necessarily going to be there for Keuchel, but at the same time, he's kind of limited himself. What he's really changed is the blow-ups. He hasn't really had a blow-up in a long time. So I do think this is a pretty good matchup for him. Obviously, you worry about the middle of that lineup with Semien and Valencia there. But other than that, I actually think he's got a pretty decent shot.
Yeah, I do too. And yeah, I mean, those names that you mentioned, Valencia, Semien, and Chris Davis, are the only ones he really has to watch out for. Maybe a Jake Smolinski, he's
of course
his lefty. So, yeah, I do think he turns into a quality star. I mean, he pitched a great game last time against Oakland. He didn't get the win, unfortunately, but I do think here today that he does.
I bet Jake Smolinski has cigars in his back pocket.
Yeah,
I've never seen him. This could be a different visual, but I just see him
in like a cool other pouch or just straight up.
No, and like the ash gets in his pocket, like he just stuffs it in, and it like breaks the cigar, but he like takes it out and still smokes it anyway, even though it's like a broken. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Dylan Overton, is he a guy under 5K you can see deploying, or is he just falling to the rest of them of no thanks?
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, he actually is a better option than some of these lowest of the low options, but I still don't. I don't see myself diving down there.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
Oh, okay.
What? No, I'm in agreement. He's not worth a look at all. White Sox,
That'd be wild. That'd be wild if you just came up with something for him right now.
Yeah, like I made a case for him, but no.
Yeah.
I looked at him. There's no case I can make. White Sox and Mariners here. Wade Miley versus Jose Quintana, and Quintana. He just kind of keeps me away from the Mariners, but I don't see myself necessarily using him at that price tag. He's a little too expensive for me. I don't think there's enough upside or anything really there that gives me confidence that he can pull out a win. So I think this game's just kind of a stay away, and I just might actually take more shots with some of those right-handers in this game than maybe I probably should.
Yeah, it's just a total washout for me. I do like Quintana. He's a solid arm, but at the same time, I like this Mariners lineup, so just a washout for me. I'm not really looking at either side.
No, and no clear favorite here. So I really don't think there's any real need to kind of deploy either arm.
Right.
It's going to wrap things up here with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all great tools and content.